Hello and welcome back to another episode of DLC. I'm your host today, Joey Fitz, and today we are talking about a game from our friends over at Hypnotic Arts that we received a free review copy of from our friends at Game.Press and the developer themselves. So just wanted to get that in there and say thank you so much for the review copy. We couldn't do what we do without you. The game itself is Medic Pacific War. It's a first-person wartime survival game that puts you in the role that most World War II games completely ignore. You're not a frontline soldier armed to the teeth, you're a medic. Set in the Pacific campaign of World War II, the game focuses on rescuing wounded soldiers, managing medical supplies, and trying to keep people alive as chaos unfolds around you. It's a refreshing perspective because instead of asking how many enemies can you kill, it asks how many people can you save. And honestly, I think that's much more interesting than I expected in the game. The strongest thing about Medic Pacific War is its perspective. We've played plenty of World War II games before, Medal of Honor, Call of Duty, Battlefield. There's hundreds of them. We've stormed beaches, we've flown planes, we've driven tanks, but very few games put you in the boots of someone who's trying to hold things together after everything has already gone wrong. There's a real sense of pressure because every wounded soldier feels important. You're not chasing a high score, you are dealing with emergencies. This shift in focus immediately helps this game stand out. One of my favourite moments in the game came when I thought I'd finally reached a wounded soldier safely. I got to him and started treatment, and then immediately artillery started landing nearby. Suddenly, what felt like a really simple rescue became a desperate scramble to keep both of us alive. It's a great example of how the game creates tension without needing constant combat. The gameplay loop itself revolves around finding casualties, assessing their injuries, applying the treatments, managing medical supplies, and evacuating wounded personnel. It's surprisingly engaging. You quickly realise that your resources matter. Bandages are not infinite in this game, and medicine is also not infinite. Every decision feels like it has consequences. One thing I really enjoyed was having to make quick decisions around treatment priorities. Not every casualty is in the same condition. Some need immediate attention and others can wait. That creates these small moments of battlefield decision making that make you feel like you're actually doing the job rather than following a list of prescribed objectives. There was a point when I had multiple wounded soldiers needing help all at once, and I knew I couldn't get to everyone in time, so I made a choice and treated one group first and went back later to another. But it was too late. This wasn't a scripted moment. It was entirely the result of my own decision making, and honestly, those moments hit harder than most firefights in traditional war games. Now visually, Medic Pacific War doesn't try to compete with your massive AAA shooters. Instead, it focuses on an atmosphere. The Pacific setting itself is dense, humid, claustrophobic, and constantly threatening. Jungles feel hugely oppressive in a good way. Visibility is often limited, which leads to tension, especially when you're trying to locate casualties under pressure. There's also a really strong sense of environmental storytelling. You find makeshift medical solutions and battlefield debris all over the battlefield, and you get an impression that you're operating in a place where things have gone very, very wrong. The animations on the characters aren't always perfect, and you can definitely feel the game's indie roots showing through from time to time, but the atmosphere does enough heavy lifting that this rarely becomes a problem. I think what Medic Pacific War does really well is a unique perspective that you rarely see in World War II games. I got a real Hacksaw Ridge feel when I was playing it. It creates tension without entirely relying on combat. There's a really strong sense of atmosphere and a good sense of responsibility. The medical gameplay that you do feels meaningful. It makes saving lives feel genuinely rewarding. And it stands out from the crowd in a really crowded World War II genre. That being said, it is an indie game and it's not perfect. Sometimes the animations can feel quite rough. Objectives occasionally become quite repetitive, and there's a limited variety in certain mission structures. I also feel that some systems could use a little bit more depth. Now, Medic Pacific War succeeds because it does something that most war games don't even attempt. It shifts the focus away from being a hero towards being a helper, and that completely changes the way that you approach situations. The result here is a game that feels more personal, more tense, and in some ways more memorable than a lot of traditional shooters. It's not perfect, but there are definitely moments where the indie budget shows through. The core idea is strong enough that I found myself overlooking a lot of these issues. I think Medic Pacific War isn't trying to be the next military game. It's trying to tell a very different kind of wartime story. One about responsibility, difficult choices, and trying to save the lives in impossible circumstances, and because of that, it feels surprisingly unique. If you're tired of World War II games that blend it all together, I think this one is worth keeping an eye on. The game is out on Steam, was released on the 4th of June 2026. I think it's one that you should check out, especially if you enjoy wartime games. That's it. Those are my thoughts on Medic Pacific War. Check it out if that sounds interesting to you. Let us know what you think on our Discord. Once again, thank you so much to the developer at Hypnotic Arts, the publisher at Zilla Games, and our friends over at Game.Press for the review copy of the game. My name's Joey Fitz. Thank you for stopping by, and God bless. Have a great day.